40 Life Lessons at 40. Introduction. Reflections at 40. Life has a way of teaching us lessons, sometimes through joyful moments and sometimes through seasons of challenge, uncertainty, and growth. Each stage of life carries its own experiences, and if we pay attention, those experiences slowly shape our understanding of purpose, faith, leadership, and relationships. Turning 40 is often a significant milestone. It is a time when many people begin to reflect more deeply on their journey, where they have been, what they have learned, and what truly matters moving forward. For me, reaching this stage of life has provided an opportunity to pause, reflect, and appreciate the many lessons God has graciously allowed me to learn along the way. Some of these lessons were learned through success and encouragement. Others were learned through difficulties, disappointments, and moments that required patience and perseverance. Yet in all these experiences, one truth has remained constant: life is a journey of continuous growth, and every season carries lessons that can shape us into better individuals. This book is a reflection of 40 lessons that have helped shape my perspective on life, faith, purpose, leadership, and personal development. These lessons are not presented as perfect formulas for success, nor are they meant to suggest that life will always be easy if certain principles are followed. Rather, they represent insights gathered through personal experiences, spiritual reflection, and observations over the years. Many of the principles shared in these pages are grounded in the belief that our lives are not random events, but part of a greater purpose designed by God. When we align our lives with His wisdom, we begin to see life differently. Challenges become opportunities for growth, delays become seasons of preparation, and obstacles often become stepping stones toward greater purpose. My hope is that as you read these lessons, you will find encouragement, clarity, and inspiration for your own journey. Some lessons may confirm what you already know. Others may challenge you to think differently or inspire you to take steps toward personal growth. Life is a journey of becoming wiser, stronger, more disciplined, and more aligned with the purpose for which we were created. None of us has everything figured out, but each day gives us another opportunity to learn, grow, and move closer to the life God has designed for us. If even one of these lessons encourages you to reflect more deeply, grow more intentionally, or trust God more fully in your journey, then the purpose of this book will have been fulfilled. As you read these pages, I invite you to reflect not only on the lessons themselves but also on the experiences in your own life that have shaped who you are today. Your journey matters. Your growth matters. And your purpose is worth pursuing. Let us begin. Lesson 1. One of life's greatest blessings is knowing what God has written about you and walking in that truth. One of life's greatest blessings is discovering what God has written about you and walking in that truth. Many people live their entire lives unaware of the promises, identity, and future that God has already declared for them. As a result, they settle for far less than what has been made available to them. Let me share an experience that helped me understand this principle in a practical way. Some time ago, a colleague told me that I did not have access to vacation days beyond the regular holidays and scheduled breaks. I accepted that information without questioning it and lived with that assumption for several years. However, one day I came across the employee handbook, which clearly outlined the benefits available to staff members. As I carefully read through it, I discovered that I was actually entitled to additional vacation days that no one had ever mentioned to me. Armed with this information, I approached the Human Resources office, and they confirmed that I was indeed entitled to those vacation days. That very month, I took my first vacation. As I reflected on that experience, I realized something important. My failure to seek and understand what was written about my benefits had deprived me of those opportunities for years. Likewise, many believers live far below the promises God has already made available to them simply because they do not know what is written about them in His Word. The enemy often takes advantage of this ignorance by planting thoughts of limitation, fear, and discouragement in people's minds. Beloved, I do not know what lies the enemy may have been whispering to you about your life, your future, or your potential. Life's challenges may sometimes paint a negative picture of what lies ahead. But the truth about your life is not defined by circumstances, it is revealed in the Word of God. When you search the Scriptures, you begin to discover what God has declared concerning you, your identity, your purpose, and the promises He has prepared for your life. When you understand these truths and begin to walk in them by faith, your mindset begins to change. Confidence replaces fear, hope replaces discouragement, and clarity replaces confusion. Therefore, do not neglect the Word of God. Study it, meditate on it, and allow it to shape your understanding of who you are and what God has called you to become. When you begin to stand on what God has written about you and contend with His promises, you will gradually see your life align with the truth of His Word. When you know what is written about you and walk in that knowledge, you begin to live with a sense of assurance and purpose. And as you continue to stand on God's Word, you will witness your world gradually transforming according to what He has already declared. Lesson 2: No height is unattainable when God is with you and you are willing to pay the price His way. Great accomplishments rarely happen by chance. Every meaningful height in life requires sacrifice, discipline, patience, and unwavering faith. While many people desire success, not everyone is willing to pay the price required to reach it. More importantly, some people attempt to reach great heights through shortcuts that ultimately lead to failure or regret. When God is with you, however, no height is beyond your reach. His presence provides direction, strength, wisdom, and grace for the journey. Yet God's promises are often fulfilled through obedience to His principles. This means being willing to walk the path of integrity, perseverance, humility, and diligence even when it is difficult. When the Lord revealed to me the milestones I am celebrating this year, they seemed impossible from a human perspective. I remember a time when my earthly father called me and said, "I do not have the resources to send anyone to the university. Think about a business you can learn instead." From a natural standpoint, that statement appeared to define the limits of my future. However, God spoke something different into my life. He reminded me that what seems impossible to man is still possible with Him when we truly trust Him and are willing to pay the price His way. Indeed, the journey was not easy, but God has always proven Himself faithful. His grace strengthened me through the challenges, sustained me through the uncertainties, and helped me move forward even when the path seemed unclear. The challenge for many people is not the absence of opportunity but the unwillingness to follow the process. God's way may not always be the fastest route, but it is always the safest and most rewarding. When we commit ourselves to doing things God's way, we build a foundation that can sustain lasting success. Therefore, do not be intimidated by great heights or big dreams. With God on your side and a heart willing to pay the price according to His principles, what once seemed impossible can become achievable. Where God leads and you are willing to follow with discipline and faith, no height will remain unattainable. Lesson 3: Every meaningful achievement begins with a definite purpose and a clear plan for its attainment. Without a definite direction, even the most talented individuals can find themselves moving from one activity to another without making significant progress. Purpose gives direction to effort and meaning to persistence. The motivational writer Napoleon Hill once said that the starting point of all individual achievement is adopting a definite major purpose and a clear plan for its attainment. I strongly believe this statement because I have personally discovered that one of the fundamental secrets to success is having definiteness of purpose. When a person knows exactly what they are pursuing, their decisions, priorities, and actions begin to align with that vision. Without a clear purpose, the winds of distraction can easily toss a person in many directions. Opportunities that appear attractive but are unrelated to one's true calling can consume time and energy. Over time, this lack of focus may cause individuals to miss their mark and even blame others for the unfortunate outcomes that result from a distracted life. However, when a person embraces a definite purpose and develops a clear plan to achieve it, their life begins to move with greater intention. A clear plan transforms vision into action. It helps you identify the steps required to move from where you are to where you desire to be, while also allowing you to measure progress and remain disciplined during difficult seasons. Purpose also strengthens resilience. Challenges will inevitably arise along the journey, but a person who is driven by purpose is less likely to be discouraged by temporary obstacles. Instead of becoming distracted or defeated, they continue moving forward with determination. In fact, even opposition can serve a greater purpose. There may be moments when it feels as though forces are working against you, but when your life is anchored in a clear mission, those very challenges can become instruments that push you closer to fulfilling your calling. When you live as a person committed to a major cause and guided by the Lord, even adversity can become part of the process that refines and strengthens you. Therefore, embrace a strong sense of mission. Live with clarity about the purpose God has placed upon your life, and develop a clear plan for pursuing it. When your life is guided by purpose and sustained by faith, you will eventually witness the manifestation of God's grace and glory in your journey. Lesson 4. The gap between where you are and where you should be, or where you trust God to take you, is a growth gap. In life, there is often a noticeable gap between where we currently are and where we believe we should be. This gap may appear in different areas of life: our careers, spiritual journeys, personal development, relationships, or the goals we trust God to help us achieve. At times, this distance can feel discouraging, especially when the vision we carry in our heart seems far from our present reality. But here is the truth: this gap is a growth gap. It is not necessarily a sign of failure or delay, rather, it reflects the need for holistic growth in different areas of life. Growth is not limited to one dimension. To move from where you are to where God intends for you to be, you must grow spiritually, intellectually, and emotionally. Each of these areas plays a unique role in preparing you for the future God has planned. Spiritual growth helps you gain a deeper understanding of God's plan and purpose for your life. As your spiritual awareness increases, you become more sensitive to divine direction and better equipped to overcome spiritual obstacles that may attempt to hinder your destiny. However, spiritual growth alone is not enough. Intellectual growth is also essential. Through learning, study, and the development of knowledge and skills, you gain the ability to translate the vision God places in your heart into practical reality. Intellectual growth equips you to build, create, and execute the ideas and opportunities God entrusts to you. Emotional growth is equally important. Life and purpose often involve working with people, building relationships, and navigating complex situations. Without emotional maturity, it becomes difficult to maintain healthy relationships, collaborate with others, or handle the pressures that come with greater responsibility. When these three dimensions of growth, spiritual, intellectual, and emotional, develop together, they prepare you to move confidently from where you are to where God is leading you. Therefore, if you desire to fulfill God's plans for your life, make it a daily commitment to grow. Seek God for spiritual strength, pursue knowledge that sharpens your mind, and cultivate emotional maturity that allows you to relate well with others. When you embrace this process of growth, the gap between your present reality and your future calling will gradually begin to close. Lesson 5. To fulfill your purpose, you must develop the capacity to endure pain and suffering. One of the deepest desires of every serious believer is to fulfill their God-given purpose. Yet, many people struggle not only with fulfilling their purpose but even with discovering it. Understanding one's purpose can be challenging, but those who have been guided by God to discover their calling will often testify that fulfilling that purpose can be even more demanding. The journey toward purpose is rarely without opposition. Along the way, there are obstacles, distractions, and pressures that attempt to divert individuals from the path they are meant to follow. The enemy often places barriers in the way of those who are pursuing their purpose, hoping to discourage them or cause them to abandon their mission. Interestingly, obstacles are sometimes easier to recognize than distractions disguised as opportunities. While some challenges appear clearly as resistance, other influences may seem attractive and promising but are strategically placed to pull a person away from their true calling. Many people fall into these distractions because they are unwilling to endure the temporary hardship that often accompanies the pursuit of purpose. The truth is that fulfilling your purpose requires the capacity to endure pain and suffering. This may be a difficult reality for many believers to accept, but a careful study of the life of Jesus Christ reveals this principle clearly. The fulfillment of his divine mission required sacrifice, endurance, and the willingness to face intense suffering. In many ways, hardship becomes part of the refining process that prepares a person for their assignment in life. Through pain, perseverance is developed. Through struggle, character is strengthened. These experiences cultivate the resilience needed to carry the responsibilities that accompany purpose. Unfortunately, some people abandon their calling when the journey becomes uncomfortable. They interpret difficulty as a signal to stop rather than as part of the process of preparation. However, those who remain committed even through seasons of hardship often discover that endurance becomes one of the greatest strengths that enables them to fulfill their purpose. For this reason, anyone who desires to fulfill their God-given purpose must develop the strength to endure challenges without losing sight of their calling. Pain may be temporary, but the growth it produces often prepares a person for the impact they were created to make. In the end, the path to purpose is not always easy, but those who cultivate the capacity to endure will find themselves strengthened, refined, and prepared to complete the assignment placed upon their lives. Lesson 6: To become who God wants you to be and fulfill His purpose for your life, you must be filled with the knowledge of His will in all wisdom and spiritual understanding. To truly become who God wants you to be and fulfill His purpose for your life, you must be filled with the knowledge of His will rooted in wisdom and spiritual understanding. When a person gains this divine insight, it becomes a guiding light for their decisions, helping them avoid costly mistakes and protecting them from being swayed by the opinions or pressures of others. Many people have been misled by wrong counsel simply because they lacked a clear understanding of God's will for their lives. When a person is uncertain about their direction, even well-meaning advice can lead them away from their true purpose. This is why spiritual discernment is so important. Knowing God's will gives you the confidence to stay aligned with your calling, even when others may not fully understand the path you are walking. A powerful example of this truth can be seen in the life of Jesus Christ. As we reflect on His death and resurrection, we are reminded that it was necessary for Him to go to the cross in order to accomplish the salvation of humanity. Yet there was a moment when one of His closest disciples, Peter the Apostle, tried to prevent Him from taking that path. Peter's concern came from love and loyalty, but it lacked spiritual understanding. Had Jesus not been firmly grounded in the knowledge of God's will, he might have been persuaded by Peter's well-meaning but misguided counsel and turned away from the very mission he was sent to accomplish. This example reminds us that even sincere voices around us may sometimes offer advice that does not align with God's plan. Without spiritual understanding, it can be easy to follow popular opinion instead of divine direction. However, when you are rooted in the knowledge of God's will, you develop the confidence to remain steadfast in your calling. For this reason, it is essential to spend time with God. Seek Him intentionally through prayer, reflection, and the study of His Word. As you grow in your relationship with Him, He fills your heart with wisdom, clarity, and spiritual understanding that guide your steps. When you live with this awareness, you will not easily be confused or distracted by competing voices. Instead, you will walk confidently in the path God has prepared for you, allowing your life to reflect His purpose and reveal His glory to the world. Lesson 7: When you are unsure about the steps to take, do not simply follow what is common or accepted by society. Instead, choose what is right. When you are unsure about what steps to take, do not simply follow what is common or accepted by society. Instead, choose to do what is right. What is popular is not always what is correct, and following the crowd may provide temporary comfort but can sometimes lead people away from the path that aligns with truth and purpose. Doing the right thing does not always produce immediate success, joy, or fulfillment. In fact, there may be moments when choosing what is right requires sacrifice, patience, or courage. However, one truth remains certain: we serve a God who rewards righteousness. When your choices are guided by integrity and a desire to honor God, you can be confident that the outcome will ultimately lead to fulfillment and peace. History has shown that many individuals who made meaningful impact did not simply follow the crowd. They chose principles over popularity and truth over convenience. While their decisions may not have produced immediate rewards, their commitment to doing what was right eventually shaped their character and influence. At the same time, having the willingness to do the right thing without knowing how to do it can lead to frustration. This is why wisdom and guidance are so important. When you find yourself uncertain about the right course of action, do not hesitate to seek counsel from people who are experienced, wise, and trustworthy. A good mentor can help provide clarity, offer perspective, and guide you in making decisions that align with truth and purpose. Surrounding yourself with such guidance can help you remain steady even when the right path is not the easiest one. In the end, choosing what is right may require courage and patience, but it will always lead to a life built on integrity. And a life built on integrity will always stand the test of time. Lesson 8: Becoming the best version of yourself according to God's plan is far more important than acquiring material possessions. In today's world, success is often measured by material possessions, houses, cars, money, and other visible signs of wealth. While there is nothing inherently wrong with having material resources, these things should never become the ultimate measure of a meaningful life. Day after day, I see many people weighed down by anxiety about life. Yet when you look closely at the source of their worries, it is often surprising to discover that they are more concerned with possessing material things than with becoming who God has called them to be. This misplaced focus creates pressure, comparison, and constant dissatisfaction. True fulfillment is not found in what you own, but in who you become. God's plan for your life is not centered merely on accumulation but on transformation, developing your character, strengthening your faith, and shaping you into a person who reflects His purpose. When your focus shifts from possession to becoming, something remarkable happens: your anxiety begins to fade. You start to value the journey of growth rather than being consumed by outcomes. When the process of growth is sound, the results will eventually follow. Material possessions may provide temporary comfort, but character, wisdom, and spiritual growth carry lasting value. As you grow into the person God designed you to be, opportunities and resources often begin to align with your life naturally. So, my beloved brothers and sisters, do not allow life's anxieties to weigh you down. Embrace the journey of becoming. Focus on growing into the person God created you to be, and trust that as you walk faithfully in His plan, your future will indeed be glorious. Lesson 9: If you want to go far, be intentional about the company you keep. The company you keep can ultimately influence your destiny. This is why you must be intentional about your associations. Someone once said that who you will become in 5 years will largely be determined by the books you read and the company you keep. The people you spend time with have a way of shaping your thinking, influencing your decisions, and affecting the direction of your life. While there is nothing wrong with walking with people of good character, associating closely with those who lack sound judgment and spiritual sensitivity can hinder your progress and limit your growth. The influence of such company can slowly shape your attitudes, weaken your discipline, and cloud your ability to make wise decisions both in spiritual matters and in other important areas of life. This is why discernment is essential when choosing those who will have close access to your life. Respect everyone, treat people with kindness, and maintain a spirit of humility. However, be selective about those you allow to influence your thoughts, your values, and your decisions. The people you consistently interact with will either elevate your vision or gradually pull you away from it. Scripture offers clear wisdom on this matter: walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. Proverbs 13:20, NIV. Wise relationships sharpen your mind, strengthen your faith, and help you stay aligned with God's purpose. Choose companions who inspire growth, encourage discipline, and challenge you to become a better version of yourself. When you surround yourself with people who pursue wisdom, integrity, and purpose, their influence will help position you to fulfill the destiny God has prepared for your life. Lesson 10. The wise use of time is crucial. It can shield us from many of life's challenges. Time is one of the most valuable resources given to every human being. Regardless of our background, status, or circumstances, we are all given the same 24 hours each day. What often distinguishes fulfilled and successful individuals from those who struggle is not necessarily intelligence or opportunity, but how wisely they use their time. The wise use of time protects us from many unnecessary challenges. When time is used purposefully, it allows us to prepare, grow, and position ourselves for opportunities. However, when time is wasted through distraction, procrastination, or lack of discipline, the consequences often appear later in the form of stress, missed opportunities, and avoidable difficulties. Consider this: many people pray earnestly to God for prosperity and greater opportunities. Yet if some of us spent even half the time we dedicate each week to watching movies on reading materials related to our careers, personal growth, and life goals, we would gradually build the capacity to attract many of the opportunities we are praying for. I have nothing against watching movies, I act in them myself. However, the wise use of time is crucial because it can shield us from many of life's challenges. What we consistently invest our time in ultimately shapes the direction of our lives. Research has shown that committing just 1 hour a day to studying a specific subject can make a person highly knowledgeable, if not an expert in that field, within 5 years. Imagine the transformation that can take place when someone consistently dedicates time to learning, developing new skills, and strengthening their understanding of their chosen path. Using time wisely does not necessarily mean filling every moment with activity. Rather, it means prioritizing what truly matters. It means intentionally investing time in activities that contribute to spiritual growth, personal development, meaningful relationships, and the fulfillment of one's purpose. In many ways, the wise use of time acts like a shield. It protects us from avoidable mistakes, reduces unnecessary struggles, and positions us to walk steadily toward the future we desire. So, the question becomes simple but powerful: how are you spending your time? Lesson 11. One of the clearest signs of stagnation is when your sense of self-worth does not grow over the years. From the perspective of destiny, one of the clearest signs of stagnation is living a life in which your self-worth does not grow over the years. Growth is not only measured by age or the passage of time, but by the value you continue to develop within yourself. When a person remains the same in knowledge, character, skills, and discipline for many years, it often reflects a lack of intentional growth. This truth is especially important in today's world, where compensation and opportunities are often influenced by perceived value, not merely by the tasks a person performs. In many workplaces, two individuals may perform similar duties, yet one may earn significantly more than the other. The difference is often connected to the value they bring through their knowledge, experience, discipline, and ability to solve problems. This is why many job postings include the phrase "salary commensurate with qualifications and experience." That statement reflects an important reality: your qualifications and experiences contribute to your perceived value. The more you grow, learn, and develop yourself, the greater your capacity to contribute meaningfully to the world around you. Therefore, personal growth should never stop. Invest time in learning, developing new skills, strengthening your character, and deepening your understanding of your chosen field. As your capacity grows, so does your ability to create impact and attract greater opportunities. Self-worth is not about pride or arrogance, it is about recognizing and developing the value that God has placed within you. When you intentionally cultivate your abilities and expand your knowledge, you position yourself to contribute more effectively and to fulfill the purpose assigned to your life. So, take a moment to reflect on this important question: is your self-worth growing, or has it remained the same over the years? The answer to that question may reveal whether you are moving forward on the path of growth or remaining in a place of stagnation. Lesson 12. Spirituality without wisdom will eventually lead to problems. Spirituality plays an important role in shaping a person's life, values, and relationship with God. However, spirituality without wisdom can often lead to unnecessary challenges and confusion. While faith is essential, it must be balanced with understanding, discernment, and practical wisdom. Spirituality and wisdom are distinct yet complementary. A person can be spiritual without being wise, but when that happens, ignorance can bring serious consequences. True spiritual growth requires not only devotion to God but also the ability to apply wisdom in everyday decisions and actions. Unfortunately, many people today emphasize spirituality while neglecting wisdom. They may pray frequently, attend religious gatherings, and speak passionately about faith, yet fail to seek understanding or exercise sound judgment. When spirituality is not guided by wisdom, it can lead to misinterpretation, poor decisions, and avoidable problems. This is why Scripture repeatedly emphasizes the importance of wisdom. The Bible warns in Proverbs 1:25-26, "Because you disdained all my counsel and would have none of my rebuke, I also will laugh at your calamity, I will mock when your terror comes." This passage reminds us that ignoring wisdom can lead to consequences that could have been avoided. True spirituality is not only expressed through prayer, worship, or religious activities, it is also demonstrated through wise living. Wisdom helps us interpret situations correctly, make balanced decisions, and apply spiritual principles in ways that produce meaningful and lasting results. It protects us from making choices that may appear spiritual but are not grounded in sound judgment. When spirituality and wisdom work together, they create a strong foundation for a stable and purposeful life. Spirituality connects us with God, while wisdom helps us apply His guidance in practical ways. Therefore, as you journey through life, seek wisdom daily while walking closely with God. As your spiritual life deepens and your wisdom grows, you will develop the clarity and discernment needed to navigate life faithfully and responsibly. Lesson 13: When spiritual obstacles are removed, success becomes predictable. Success in life is often associated with hard work, discipline, education, and opportunity. While these factors are important, many people overlook another critical dimension of life, the spiritual dimension. When spiritual problems are present, they can quietly undermine progress, distort judgment, and create obstacles that are not always visible on the surface. Spiritual problems can take many forms. They may appear as unresolved bitterness, pride, disobedience to God's principles, unhealthy habits, a lack of spiritual discipline, or attacks from the devil. These issues may not immediately appear serious, but over time they can influence decisions, relationships, and character in ways that hinder success. When a person's spiritual life is out of alignment, even great talent and hard work may not produce the desired results. Internal struggles can create confusion, weaken discipline, and lead to choices that sabotage long-term progress. In many cases, people attempt to solve external problems without addressing the spiritual conditions that may be contributing to them. However, when spiritual problems are addressed and a person's life becomes aligned with God's principles, progress often becomes more predictable. A heart that is free from bitterness, pride, and hidden struggles is able to think clearly, act wisely, and remain disciplined in the pursuit of purpose. This is why spiritual health is so important. Prayer, reflection, humility, and obedience to God's word help cleanse the heart and align a person with divine guidance. When the spiritual foundation of a person's life is strong, it becomes easier to maintain focus, make wise decisions, and pursue meaningful goals. In many ways, spiritual alignment removes invisible barriers that could otherwise limit progress. Once those barriers are removed, diligence, discipline, and faith can work together more effectively. Therefore, do not neglect your spiritual life while pursuing success. When your heart is right before God and your life is aligned with His principles, your path becomes clearer and your efforts become more fruitful. In such a condition, success often becomes not just possible but predictable. Lesson 14, your environment plays a major role in nurturing the seeds of greatness within you. The environment in which a person lives, works, and grows has a profound influence on their development. While every individual carries within them the potential for greatness, the environment surrounding them often plays a significant role in determining how that potential is nurtured and expressed. Soil plays a crucial role in the germination of seeds. It provides essential support, nutrients, moisture, and the right conditions for growth. In the same way, the environment you find yourself in plays a major role in nurturing the seeds of greatness within you. Just as a seed may struggle or fail to grow in the wrong soil, the wrong environment has the potential to stifle the greatness within a person. I have encountered many talented individuals who were unable to reach their full potential simply because they were trapped in the wrong environment. Sometimes the environment itself limits opportunities, discourages ambition, or fails to support personal growth. When a person remains in such surroundings for too long, their confidence and motivation can gradually diminish. In some cases, the environment may be a physical location that a person did not choose and cannot easily change. However, there are other types of environments that we often have the ability to influence or choose. These may include the workplace we enter, the friends we keep, the communities we associate with, and even the relationships we commit to in marriage. The key is to be intentional. Before committing to any environment, take time to evaluate whether its values, culture, and influence align with the direction you want your life to go. An environment that consistently contradicts your values or discourages growth may gradually limit your potential. While some environments are easier to leave without major consequences, others may be more difficult to change. This is why careful consideration before entering such environments is so important. The seeds of greatness already exist within you, but like seeds planted in soil, they require the right conditions to grow and flourish. When you surround yourself with environments that encourage growth, discipline, wisdom, and purpose, you create the conditions necessary for your potential to fully develop. Choose your environment wisely, because the right environment can nurture your potential, while the wrong one can quietly suppress it. Lesson 15. Unaddressed foundational issues can undermine even the most serious efforts in life. In life, many people work extremely hard in their pursuit of success, fulfillment, and progress. They invest time, energy, and resources into their goals, hoping that their efforts will eventually produce meaningful results. However, there is an important principle that is often overlooked: when foundational issues remain unaddressed, even the greatest effort may produce limited or disappointing outcomes. Many people are unable to reach their full potential not because they lack effort, but because unresolved foundational issues have quietly placed an embargo on their destinies. These are often sincere and hard-working individuals who have invested in their education and personal development. Some hold multiple degrees and possess great talent, yet they still experience recurring patterns of failure, setbacks, poverty, disfavor, or other persistent challenges. Instead of investigating these patterns, many simply attribute them to economic conditions or external circumstances. A foundation determines the strength and stability of everything built upon it. Just as a building with a weak foundation will eventually develop cracks or collapse, a life built on unresolved foundational issues may struggle to sustain progress. Sometimes these issues are personal, such as unhealthy habits, lack of discipline, or poor values. At other times, they may involve deeper spiritual or generational patterns that quietly influence a person's life and decisions. Beloved, I strongly believe in intellectual growth and personal development. Education, discipline, and hard work are essential for progress. However, if you begin to notice consistent negative patterns in your life or family history, it is important not to ignore them. Take time to seek God, reflect deeply, and address those issues until you gain clarity and victory. This process may require courage, honesty, and spiritual commitment. It may involve prayer, self-examination, wise counsel, and a conscious decision to change certain patterns or attitudes that have persisted over time. Make a firm decision that whatever stopped previous generations will not stop you. Refuse to allow cycles of limitation to continue unchecked. When you confront foundational issues with wisdom and faith, you position yourself to break patterns that once seemed inevitable. In the end, the goal is not merely to work harder but to build a stronger foundation. When the foundation of your life is healthy spiritually, mentally, and morally, your efforts will no longer be wasted. Instead, they will produce lasting results and open the way for you to fulfill the destiny that God has placed before you. Lesson 16, Maximizing your potential requires stepping out of your comfort zone. Every person carries within them a measure of potential that is far greater than what they often realize. However, unlocking that potential rarely happens while remaining in familiar and comfortable environments. Growth usually requires stepping beyond what feels safe and predictable. The comfort zone is a place where routines are familiar and risks are minimal. While comfort can provide temporary security, it can also limit progress. When a person remains too comfortable for too long, they may unknowingly restrict their ability to grow, learn, and discover new opportunities. Maximizing your potential often requires courage, the willingness to try new things, face uncertainty, and pursue goals that may initially seem intimidating. Stepping out of your comfort zone might involve learning new skills, taking on greater responsibilities, starting something new, or embracing opportunities that challenge your current abilities. At first, such experiences may feel uncomfortable. Yet it is precisely within these moments of discomfort that growth begins to take place. When you challenge yourself, you develop new strengths, gain valuable experience, and expand your capacity to handle greater responsibilities. Many of the achievements people admire today began with individuals who were willing to step beyond their comfort zones. They embraced challenges, accepted the possibility of failure, and remained committed to learning through the process. Over time, those experiences helped them discover abilities they did not know they possessed. For those who desire to fulfill their purpose, stepping out of the comfort zone is often unavoidable. Purpose frequently calls us to places that stretch our faith, discipline, and determination. However, it is in those very moments that hidden potential is revealed. Therefore, do not allow the desire for comfort to limit what you can become. When you consistently challenge yourself and step beyond familiar boundaries, you create opportunities for growth that can transform both your life and the lives of others. Lesson 17, Communication is a powerful tool. When it is ineffective, assumptions quickly fill the gap. Communication is one of the most powerful tools human beings possess. It shapes relationships, builds understanding, and helps people work together toward common goals. When communication is clear and intentional, it strengthens trust and prevents unnecessary misunderstandings. However, when communication is absent or ineffective, assumptions quickly take its place. People naturally try to fill the gaps in understanding, often interpreting situations based on incomplete information or personal perceptions. Unfortunately, these assumptions are frequently inaccurate and can lead to confusion, tension, or conflict. Many relationships, whether in families, friendships, workplaces, or communities, have suffered not because people intended harm, but because important things were left unsaid or poorly communicated. A simple conversation, clarification, or honest expression of thoughts could have prevented many unnecessary problems. Effective communication requires more than simply speaking. It involves listening carefully, expressing thoughts clearly, and ensuring that the message being delivered is truly understood. It also requires humility and patience, especially when discussing sensitive issues. When people communicate openly and respectfully, they create an environment where trust can grow. Problems are addressed before they become larger, misunderstandings are corrected quickly, and relationships remain strong. For anyone pursuing a purposeful life, learning to communicate effectively is an invaluable skill. Clear communication strengthens leadership, preserves relationships, and helps people move forward together with shared understanding. In the end, silence, or unclear communication often creates space for assumptions. but when communication is intentional, honest, and thoughtful, it becomes a powerful instrument for building clarity, unity, and progress. Lesson 18. Sometimes, the most powerful prayer for reconciliation is the humble act of admitting you're wrong and saying, "I'm sorry." Reconciliation is one of the most important foundations of healthy relationships. Whether in families, friendships, workplaces, or spiritual communities, misunderstandings and conflicts are inevitable. No matter how careful we try to be, there will be moments when our words, actions, or decisions hurt others. In many situations, people pray and ask God to restore broken relationships. While prayer is important, the most powerful step toward reconciliation is sometimes not a prayer spoken to God alone, but the humble act of admitting our mistakes and saying, "I'm sorry." Admitting that we are wrong requires humility. Pride often makes people defend themselves, justify their actions, or avoid responsibility. Unfortunately, this attitude can prolong conflict and deepen emotional wounds. However, when a person chooses humility over pride, healing can begin. A sincere apology has the power to soften hearts, remove tension, and open the door for restoration. It shows maturity, self-awareness, and a genuine desire for peace. In many cases, the simple words "I'm sorry" can accomplish what long explanations or arguments cannot. Learning to apologize does not make a person weak, it demonstrates strength of character. It reflects a willingness to value relationships more than personal ego. Those who understand this principle are often able to preserve meaningful relationships and avoid unnecessary bitterness. At times, reconciliation may still take time, and not every situation will be resolved immediately. Yet the act of humbly acknowledging our wrong places us in the right position before both God and people. In the end, many broken relationships could be healed if people were willing to take that simple but powerful step. This makes me believe that, sometimes the most effective prayer for reconciliation is not a long petition, but a humble heart that is willing to say, "I was wrong. I'm sorry." Lesson 19. Delay is not denial, it is divine preparation for what lies ahead. Sometimes we become discouraged when we experience delays in life. When our expectations are not met within the time frame we imagined, it is easy to feel frustrated, disappointed, or even forgotten. However, it is important to understand a deeper truth: delay is not denial, it is often God's way of preparing you for what lies ahead. Every delay carries a message. Instead of interpreting it as rejection or failure, we should see it as an opportunity for preparation. During seasons of waiting, God often works behind the scenes to develop our character, strengthen our faith, and prepare us for the responsibilities that accompany the blessings we are seeking. What we may perceive as a delay may simply mean that we are still being prepared for what is to come. In many cases, the waiting season is necessary because we may not yet possess the strength, maturity, or wisdom required to sustain the very thing we are asking God for. Growth often happens quietly during these seasons. When we shift our perspective from frustration to preparation, the waiting period becomes meaningful rather than discouraging. I often share this perspective with individuals who are trusting God for a life partner. Many people become discouraged when marriage does not happen as quickly as they had hoped, forgetting that delay is not denial, it is often divine preparation for what is to come. Instead of feeling lonely or pressured, cherish your waiting season and allow God to work deeply in your life. Use that time to grow emotionally, spiritually, and personally so that when the right person arrives, you are fully prepared for the responsibility and purpose that comes with that relationship. God is more than able to choose what is best for you, and when He does, His choice is not based merely on comfort but on calling and purpose. The relationships, opportunities, and breakthroughs that God orchestrates are often aligned with the greater purpose He has placed upon your life. Therefore, while you wait, remain aligned with your calling and stay focused on your God-given purpose. Continue to grow, develop your character, and strengthen your relationship with God. This principle applies to every area of life. In your waiting season, focus on growth rather than frustration. When you adopt this mindset, your waiting season will no longer feel like wasted time. Instead, it becomes a season of preparation that brings out the best in you and positions you for the fulfillment of what God has planned for your future. Lesson 20, if you are willing to achieve results God's way, do not be afraid to pass through the fire. When you make up your mind to achieve results God's way, you will inevitably face situations that force you to choose between passing through the fire or embracing compromise. At such moments, the decision is yours to make. Because of fear, pressure, or the desire for quick relief, many people choose compromise. While compromise may appear to offer temporary comfort, it often leads to long-term consequences and regrets. However, if you choose to endure and walk through what feels like fire, you will eventually discover that the process is not meant to destroy you but to refine you. What may seem like intense pressure is often part of God's way of shaping your character, strengthening your faith, and preparing you for greater responsibilities. The fire is not designed to roast you but to purify you. God often uses difficult moments to remove weaknesses, pride, impatience, and distractions that could limit the destiny He has prepared for us. Just as gold is refined through fire to remove impurities, difficult seasons in life often serve to remove attitudes, habits, and mindsets that could hinder our future. In those moments, perseverance becomes essential. When you refuse to compromise and remain faithful to God's principles, the very trials that once appeared threatening can become the instruments that strengthen and elevate you. Looking back at my own journey, many of the experiences that strengthened my faith were once the very situations that looked as though they would break me down. There were several times when I found myself at critical crossroads where I had to make difficult choices. In those moments, I had to decide whether to endure the discomfort of passing through the fire or to embrace alternatives that did not reflect the values and principles I desired to live by. Those decisions were not easy. At times, the pressure was intense and the temptation to compromise was real. Yet, each time I chose to trust God and remain faithful to His principles, I discovered something profound: God was already waiting for me in the fire. Just as He was with the 3 Hebrews in the fiery furnace, His presence was there to sustain, strengthen, and uphold me. God does not always remove the fire, but He promises to be present in it. His grace becomes most evident in the very situations that appear most difficult. When we trust Him and remain obedient, the fire that seemed threatening becomes the process through which our faith grows stronger and our character becomes more refined. This is one of life's profound truths: the fire that many people run away from is often the same fire that refines those who choose to trust God and remain steadfast. What looks like destruction may actually be divine preparation, and those who refuse to compromise will eventually emerge stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the purpose God has placed in their lives. Lesson 21. Never circumvent the process that prepares you for the fulfillment of your destiny because of people's expectations. Many people unknowingly abandon the process designed to shape their destiny because of the expectations of others. Society often places pressure on us to achieve certain milestones within specific timelines. Family members, friends, and even colleagues may expect us to move faster, accomplish more, or follow paths that appear impressive from the outside. While these expectations may not always be ill-intentioned, they can sometimes push us to bypass the very process that God intends to use to prepare us. The process is often where character is formed, wisdom is developed, and resilience is built. Unfortunately, many people focus only on the destination and overlook the importance of the journey. In their attempt to satisfy external expectations, they take shortcuts that may eventually compromise the quality of their preparation and the stability of their future. God's process is rarely rushed. It often involves seasons of learning, waiting, growth, and sometimes even discomfort. These seasons are not wasted time, they are part of the divine preparation required for the fulfillment of destiny. When we attempt to skip these stages simply to meet the expectations of others, we risk arriving at places we are not fully prepared to sustain. It is important to remember that destiny is not a competition. Everyone's journey unfolds differently, and God's timing for each life is unique. Instead of measuring your progress against the expectations of others, focus on faithfully walking through the process that God has designed for you. When you honor the process, you allow God to shape your character, deepen your understanding, and strengthen your capacity to carry the responsibilities that come with your destiny. In the end, the preparation will prove just as valuable as the destination itself. Those who refuse to circumvent the process will eventually discover that the journey itself was preparing them for something far greater than they initially imagined. Lesson 22, no matter the challenges you face, never lose your focus. In life, whether you like it or not, you will encounter opposition. Challenges will arise, circumstances will test your resolve, and voices may rise against you. At times, the enemy will wage war against your progress, seeking to distract you, discourage you, or derail your journey. However, in spite of all the challenges you may face, one thing you must never lose is your focus. Focus is one of the most powerful assets a person can possess on the path of destiny. A person who lacks focus is already failing, even if nothing is actively fighting against them. Without focus, energy becomes scattered, opportunities are wasted, and progress becomes slow or non-existent. Remaining steadfast and staying on course in the midst of life's difficulties is therefore critical. Challenges will come, but they must never be allowed to redefine your direction. Instead of allowing obstacles to pull you away from your purpose, learn to use them as motivation to press forward with greater determination. Focus helps you to filter distractions, ignore unnecessary noise, and remain committed to the path you have chosen. It keeps your eyes fixed on the bigger picture when temporary setbacks try to shift your attention. When you maintain focus, you refuse to allow temporary difficulties to overshadow the long-term purpose of your journey. Stay resolute. Stay on course. Maintain a strong sense of purpose. When you guard your focus, you preserve the clarity needed to continue moving forward, even when circumstances appear discouraging. This is one of the secrets to greatness. Many people fail not because the obstacles were too great, but because they lost focus along the way. Those who achieve meaningful accomplishments are often those who remain focused long enough to see their vision become reality. Lesson 23, on the path of destiny, you cannot control what people say, but you can control how you respond. One of the realities of life is that people will always have opinions. As you pursue your purpose and walk on the path of destiny, some people will encourage you, while others may criticize, misunderstand, or even speak negatively about your choices. Unfortunately, you cannot control what people choose to say or how they interpret your journey. What you can control, however, is your reaction. Your response to criticism, praise, misunderstanding, or opposition often determines whether you remain focused or become distracted. When people speak negatively, reacting emotionally or defensively can drain your energy and shift your attention away from your purpose. I remember a season in my life that I often describe as my wilderness experience. During that time, a friend of mine would frequently call me and insult me directly. Humanly speaking, I knew exactly what to say that could have silenced him and ensured he would never speak to me in that manner again. However, the Holy Spirit had been working on my heart, teaching me the discipline of self-control. Instead of responding with harsh words, I chose to control my reaction. Looking back today, I thank God that I remained quiet during that period. What seemed like an opportunity to defend myself was actually a moment that tested my character and spiritual maturity. Sometimes the greatest victory is not found in winning an argument but in maintaining peace and refusing to allow someone else's behavior to control your response. Learning to manage your reactions is therefore an important discipline. When you remain calm, focused, and grounded in your values, the words of others lose their power to derail you. Instead of reacting impulsively, you can choose to respond with wisdom, maturity, and self-control. On the path of destiny, emotional stability becomes a great strength. When you understand that you cannot control every voice around you, you will focus instead on controlling your attitude, your perspective, and your actions. Those who fulfill their destiny are not necessarily those who face the least criticism, but those who refuse to allow external voices to dictate their internal peace or determine their direction. Lesson 24. While on the path of destiny, develop the capacity to see insults as compliments on your journey toward fulfilling your destiny. While walking on the path of destiny, it is almost inevitable that you will encounter criticism, misunderstanding, and sometimes even insults. Not everyone will understand your journey, your calling, or the vision God has placed in your heart. In fact, some of the strongest opposition you face may come from people who cannot see what you see or believe what you believe. If you are not careful, these words and reactions can become distractions that weaken your focus or discourage your progress. However, one of the capacities that every person pursuing destiny must develop is the ability to reinterpret insults and criticism. Instead of allowing them to discourage you, learn to see them as signals that you are moving in a direction that attracts attention and sometimes resistance. Throughout history, many individuals who eventually fulfilled great purposes faced ridicule, doubt, and rejection at different stages of their journey. Often, what people criticize today becomes the very thing they celebrate tomorrow. This is why emotional resilience is so important on the path of destiny. Developing this capacity does not mean ignoring wisdom or constructive feedback. Rather, it means refusing to allow negativity, mockery, or insults to define your identity or limit your progress. When you remain focused on your purpose and anchored in God's guidance, criticism loses its power to derail you. Over time, you begin to realize that what once sounded like insults can actually become compliments in disguise. They confirm that you are attempting something meaningful, something different, and something significant enough to provoke reactions from others. When you understand this, you will no longer be easily shaken by negative voices. Instead, you will continue moving forward with confidence, humility, and determination, knowing that the same journey that attracts criticism today may eventually inspire admiration tomorrow. Lesson 25. Not every closed door is locked. Until you move closer and attempt to open it, never assume that it is locked. In life, many opportunities remain unexplored simply because people assume they are unavailable. When we encounter obstacles or closed doors, it is easy to conclude that the opportunity behind them is beyond our reach. As a result, many individuals stop trying before they even make an attempt. The truth, however, is that not every closed door is locked. Sometimes what appears to be an obstacle is simply an invitation to take initiative. Until you move closer and make an effort to open the door, you cannot truly know whether it is closed to you or not. In many cases, fear, doubt, and discouragement convince people that certain opportunities are impossible. The enemy often takes advantage of these assumptions, planting thoughts that make people believe the doors before them are permanently closed. Yet many of these so-called closed doors are not locked at all. They are simply closed, often to filter out those who lack interest, determination, or courage. Throughout life, many breakthroughs occur because someone was willing to try when others assumed it was impossible. They asked the question others were afraid to ask. They applied for opportunities others believed were out of reach. They moved forward while others stood back, convinced the door would never open. Initiative is often the difference between missed opportunities and meaningful progress. When you move closer to the doors you desire and attempt to open them, you give yourself the opportunity to discover possibilities that might otherwise remain hidden. Of course, not every door will open immediately. Some may require patience, preparation, or persistence. However, you will never truly know which doors are open until you are willing to test them. Therefore, do not allow assumptions or fear to limit your potential. Move closer to the opportunities before you, turn the handle, and you may be surprised to discover that the door you thought was closed was never locked at all. Lesson 26. Without a positive attitude, the challenges meant to build you may end up weighing you down. Life presents every individual with a series of challenges. Some of these challenges arise from circumstances beyond our control, while others appear as part of the process of growth and preparation. For those who walk with God, many of these experiences are not meant to destroy them but to build them. One important factor that determines how we respond to these challenges is our attitude. The author Jeff Keller describes attitude as the mental filter through which we experience the world. In other words, the way we think shapes the way we interpret the situations around us. Without beating around the bush, let me say this clearly: until you cultivate the habit of seeing your world with a positive attitude, many of the challenges the Lord brings your way to build you up may end up weighing you down instead. What was meant to strengthen you can become a burden if it is viewed through the wrong perspective. A positive attitude does not mean ignoring difficulties or pretending that problems do not exist. Rather, it means choosing to approach life with faith, hope, and the expectation that God is working even through challenging circumstances. People with a positive attitude do not believe in impossibilities, they believe in possibilities in every situation. They are the kind of people who boldly declare, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me," Philippians 4:13. When they encounter obstacles that look like mountains, they refuse to be intimidated. Instead, they confront those challenges with determination, believing that with God's help there is always a way forward. Rather than concentrating on problems, they trust in the wisdom of God to guide them toward solutions. They understand that temporary difficulties cannot compare to the greater purpose God is unfolding in their lives. As the scripture reminds us, the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us, Romans 8:18. Beloved, it is important to ask yourself an honest question: what attitude do you carry toward life? If you consistently see only limitations, obstacles, impossibilities, and reasons why things cannot work, it may be time to change your perspective. Without the right attitude, rising above limitations becomes extremely difficult. However, when you cultivate a positive attitude grounded in faith, challenges begin to look different. Instead of weighing you down, they become stepping stones that help you grow stronger and rise higher toward the future God has prepared for you. Lesson 27, while trusting God to rise above limitations, refuse to take shortcuts. Many people desire to rise above limitations and achieve meaningful success in life. As they pursue these goals, they often pray and trust God for opportunities, breakthroughs, and progress. However, along this journey, there is a temptation that frequently appears: the temptation to take shortcuts. While trusting God to rise above limitations, never consider shortcuts as an option. Shortcuts may appear attractive because they promise quick results with less effort. Yet what seems like an easy path often leads people away from the very plans and purposes God has for their lives. What is gained quickly through compromise rarely has the strength to endure. The journey toward meaningful progress requires patience, discipline, and integrity. When you trust God to lift you above limitations, you must also trust the process He uses to prepare you for that elevation. The process may take time, but it builds the character, wisdom, and resilience necessary to sustain the blessings that follow. It is important to remember that the challenges you encounter along the way are not meant to stop you. Often, they serve as stepping stones that help shape you for the next level of your journey. Each challenge strengthens your faith, sharpens your discipline, and prepares you for greater responsibility. When you embrace these challenges with grace and perseverance, you begin to see them differently, not as barriers, but as part of God's preparation for your future. Over time, the lessons learned through these experiences position you to rise above the limitations that once seemed overwhelming. Therefore, remain committed to the right path. Refuse the temptation of shortcuts, and trust that God's process is shaping you for something greater. As you walk faithfully through each stage of the journey, you will gradually witness God lifting you higher and leading you into the fulfillment of His purpose for your life. Lesson 28, when you have direction and practice patience, your life can be filled with unspeakable joy. Direction gives meaning to your journey. Without it, even great effort can lead to frustration because energy is spent moving in many different directions. However, when a person has clear direction, every step, no matter how small, moves them closer to their purpose. Patience, on the other hand, sustains the journey. Many people abandon their path because results do not appear as quickly as they expected. Yet the most meaningful accomplishments in life often require time, growth, and perseverance. Patience allows us to trust the process, even when progress appears slow. A person who knows where they are headed and is disciplined enough to avoid distractions will eventually find themselves in the right place. It may take time, but with patience and perseverance, they will get there. Over time, such a person begins to understand that success is not merely a destination to be reached but a journey to be embraced. When success is no longer seen as a single point of arrival but as a continuous process of growth and fulfillment, life becomes richer and more meaningful. Instead of constantly chasing the next achievement, one begins to appreciate the progress being made along the way. This perspective transforms the entire experience of life. With direction guiding your steps and patience strengthening your endurance, the journey itself becomes a source of deep satisfaction. You begin to move steadily from one level of growth, purpose, and fulfillment to another. In this way, life is no longer defined only by accomplishments but by the joy that comes from faithfully walking in the path God has set before you. And as you remain faithful to that path, you will discover that you are moving from one level of glory to another. Lesson 29, one of the best ways to solve your own problems is to help others solve theirs. I once read in a book by Zig Ziglar that Carl Menninger of the Menninger Clinic said, "If you have a problem, go find someone with a bigger problem, get involved in helping that person solve it, and lo and behold your own problem will disappear. It will be solved." I strongly believe in that statement. When you are willing to help others accomplish their goals, you are, first and foremost, receiving the grace to accomplish your own. In the process of lifting others, you often position yourself for the very breakthrough you desire. Directly or indirectly, you are also cultivating and nurturing the potential for greatness within yourself. Helping others develops compassion, strengthens your character, and broadens your understanding of life. It shifts your focus from self-centeredness to service, and service has a remarkable way of unlocking doors that would otherwise remain closed. For this reason, never become overly focused on yourself or your own challenges. Be kind to others and look for opportunities to make a difference in someone's life. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness or encouragement can bring hope to someone who is struggling. I remember a season in my life when I was trusting God for my own immigration breakthrough. During that time, I discovered a pathway through which people could obtain the same opportunity I was seeking. Surprisingly, the Lord instructed me to begin helping others pursue that path, even though I personally did not yet meet the requirements to apply for mine. As I began assisting others, something remarkable happened. Many of the people I helped started receiving their breakthroughs, while I remained in what felt like a waiting room. In fact, some of them did not even know that I had not yet received mine. One day, in a moment of reflection, I looked up and asked God, "Lord, when will you answer me?" Right there, the Lord impressed something deeply on my heart: poor, yet making many rich. He further instructed me to remain focused on helping others, assuring me that the grace for my own breakthrough would be released in due time. It was during that season that I began to truly understand the principle of sowing and reaping. Sometimes the very thing you are believing God for is the same blessing you are called to help others obtain. As you faithfully sow into the lives of others, God prepares the ground for your own harvest. Whatever you may be trusting God for, do not allow insecurity or fear to limit your willingness to serve others. Instead, look for opportunities to help people who may be walking through similar challenges. You may even begin by praying for others who are facing the same struggles you are experiencing, while entrusting your own situation to God. In doing so, you may discover a powerful truth: when you make it your mission to lift others, God often ensures that you will not remain where you started. In time, the seeds you sow into the lives of others will produce a harvest in your own life. Lesson 30, if you desire greatness, cultivate a heart that is committed to helping others. Many people desire greatness, influence, and success in life. However, true greatness is rarely achieved through self-centered ambition alone. One of the most reliable paths to greatness is developing a genuine commitment to helping others. When a person cultivates the attitude of helping others, their focus shifts from personal gain to meaningful contribution. Instead of constantly asking, "What can I receive?" they begin to ask, "How can I add value to the lives of others?" This mindset opens doors to growth, builds trust, and creates lasting influence. Fulfillment in life does not come only from achieving personal success. It also comes from helping others fulfill their dreams. The author Alan Loy McGuinness once said, "There is no more noble occupation in the world than to assist another human being to help someone succeed." When you help others rise, you participate in something far greater than personal achievement. Helping others also strengthens relationships and builds goodwill. People naturally appreciate those who are willing to support, encourage, and uplift them. Over time, the positive impact you make in the lives of others often returns in ways you may not expect. Many individuals who achieved remarkable success did so by dedicating themselves to serving others. Whether through leadership, mentorship, innovation, or compassion, their willingness to help people solve problems and improve their lives positioned them for greater influence and recognition. Helping others does not always require grand gestures. Sometimes it begins with simple acts, sharing knowledge, offering guidance, or providing encouragement when someone needs it most. These acts may seem small, but they often produce ripple effects that extend far beyond what we initially imagine. There is also a deeper spiritual dimension to helping others. When we serve others sincerely, we reflect compassion, humility, and generosity, qualities that strengthen both character and community. So, my beloved brothers and sisters, as you trust God to help you succeed, never ignore opportunities to help others. As you lift others along the journey, you may discover that great rewards, both seen and unseen, await those who make helping others a way of life. Lesson 31. If you desire to become an effective leader, one essential quality you must cultivate is respect for others. Leadership is not only about influence, authority, or the ability to guide others toward a vision. At its core, leadership is about people. Anyone who desires to become an effective leader must learn how to value and respect the people they are called to lead. Respect is one of the foundational qualities that sustains healthy leadership. When leaders respect others, they recognize the dignity, worth, and potential in every individual. This attitude creates an atmosphere where people feel valued, heard, and motivated to contribute their best. The truth is simple: you are not qualified to lead anyone you cannot respect. Leadership without respect easily becomes manipulation or control. Even in personal relationships such as marriage, respect remains essential. As a man, you are not truly prepared to marry a woman you do not respect. Respect reflects genuine care for others and acknowledges their value. Effective leaders do not use people for personal gain, they empower and uplift them. Their leadership is guided by a sincere concern for the growth and well-being of those around them. When respect is present, leadership becomes a platform for service rather than self-promotion. Unfortunately, when respect is absent, leadership eventually begins to weaken. People may tolerate a disrespectful leader for a time, but eventually trust begins to erode. If a leader consistently fails to treat others with dignity, there may come a moment when those followers turn away, often at the very time the leader needs their support the most. This is why respect must be cultivated intentionally. Leaders must learn to listen carefully, acknowledge the contributions of others, and treat people with fairness and dignity. Respect is not merely a polite gesture, it is a reflection of character. If you are trusting God to make you an effective leader, begin by developing a heart that truly respects people. When leadership is rooted in respect, it builds trust, strengthens relationships, and creates an environment where people are inspired to grow and contribute wholeheartedly. Lesson 32. Before calling yourself a leader, ask yourself, how much of myself am I willing to faithfully invest in those I lead? Leadership is often associated with authority, influence, and recognition. Many people aspire to be called leaders because of the respect and visibility that the title can bring. However, true leadership is not defined by position or title, it is defined by responsibility and sacrifice. Leadership is, at its core, about sacrifice. Before calling yourself a leader, it is important to ask an honest question: how much of myself am I willing to faithfully offer to those I lead? A true leader's heart is sacrificial. Leadership requires more than giving instructions or holding a position. It requires a willingness to invest your time, energy, wisdom, and commitment in the growth and well-being of others. A genuine leader understands that leadership is service. Those who follow you look not only at what you say but at how you live. Your character, discipline, humility, and consistency become powerful examples that influence the lives of others. When leaders lead with integrity and faithfulness, they inspire trust and loyalty among those they serve. Unfortunately, many nations struggle today because some leaders focus more on what they can gain than on what they can give. When leadership becomes self-centered, the people who depend on that leadership often suffer the consequences. The future of communities, organizations, and even nations often rests on the shoulders of leaders who are willing to sacrifice for the greater good. If you desire to become an impactful leader, you must cultivate a sacrificial heart. Leadership is not about personal advancement, it is about responsibility for others. It is about being willing to serve faithfully even when recognition is absent and the work requires personal cost. When leaders are willing to give of themselves for the benefit of others, they create lasting impact. They help people grow, inspire confidence, and prepare the next generation to carry forward the values of integrity and purpose. Therefore, if you are trusting God to raise you as a leader, begin by developing a heart of service and sacrifice. A leader who is willing to give themselves faithfully for the good of others will always leave a meaningful legacy. Lesson 33: A true leader empowers others to develop their gifts without feeling insecure. One of the defining qualities of true leadership is the ability to help others grow without feeling threatened by their progress. A genuine leader understands that leadership is not about maintaining personal superiority but about developing the potential of those around them. One of the challenges many leaders face, however, is insecurity. When leaders become insecure, they may feel threatened by the gifts, intelligence, or talents of those they lead. Instead of encouraging growth, they may attempt to suppress or limit the abilities of others in order to protect their position. Unfortunately, this approach weakens leadership and limits the potential of the entire team or organization. A true leader, however, takes a different approach. They recognize that helping others develop their gifts is part of their responsibility. In His mercy, God often brings people into our lives who are more gifted or talented than we are in certain areas. As a leader, your role is not to suppress them out of fear that they might outshine you. Their strengths should be seen as an opportunity to strengthen the mission rather than a threat to your position. Having someone more talented than you does not make you irrelevant. Instead, it challenges you to grow as a leader. When leaders develop the right leadership skills, especially the qualities of a transformational leader, they create an environment where both the leader and the followers continue to grow and thrive together. The Bible provides a powerful example of this principle. If Pharaoh had allowed insecurity to control his decisions, he might never have entrusted Joseph with authority during Egypt's time of crisis. Instead, Pharaoh recognized Joseph's wisdom and placed him in a position of leadership. That decision ultimately preserved the nation during the season of famine. When leaders allow insecurity to dominate their thinking, they risk pushing away the very people who could help fulfill their destiny. For followers, there is also an important lesson. Being more gifted in certain areas than your leader should never lead to arrogance. True followership is demonstrated through humility and a willingness to learn. Even when you possess strong abilities, there is still value in mentorship, guidance, and the wisdom of those placed in leadership over you. When both leaders and followers embrace humility, growth becomes possible for everyone involved. Leaders empower others without insecurity, and followers honor leadership without arrogance. In the end, great leadership is not measured by how much power a leader holds, but by how many people they help develop and empower along the way. Lesson 34, when you encounter a great and godly person who can serve as a role model, seek their wisdom and the secrets to their greatness rather than asking for money or idolizing impartation. Throughout life, we occasionally encounter individuals whose lives reflect wisdom, discipline, godliness, and meaningful accomplishments. When you meet such people, it is important to consider what you truly desire to receive from them. When many people see great men and women, their first instinct is often to seek financial assistance. Others quickly look for what they call impartation, believing that greatness can simply be transferred through association or prayer. While these responses are not entirely wrong, they often cause people to miss a much greater opportunity. Whenever you encounter a great and godly person whom you believe could serve as a role model, seek their wisdom and ask about the principles that shaped their lives. Ask about their journey, the disciplines they practiced, the challenges they faced, and the lessons they learned along the way. These insights are far more valuable than temporary material assistance. The truth is that no impartation can make a person truly great without the practice of the principles that lead to greatness. Greatness is rarely accidental. It is usually the result of consistent discipline, commitment to values, obedience to God, and the willingness to grow through life's challenges. A truly great person is someone whose path to greatness can be studied and replicated. This is why individuals who achieve success through dishonest or unethical means cannot be counted among the truly great. Their success cannot serve as a reliable model for others to follow. Great people leave behind patterns, habits, and principles that others can learn from. Their lives demonstrate the importance of discipline, perseverance, humility, and dependence on God's grace. Therefore, when you encounter such individuals, do not miss the opportunity to learn from them. Discover the principles that shaped their journey, apply those lessons in your own life, and ask God for the grace to practice them faithfully. Over time, you may find yourself walking a similar path of growth, gradually climbing the ladder of greatness through discipline, wisdom, and God's guidance. Lesson 35. The most practical way to break out of poverty and rise above limitations is through hard work guided by a sense of mission and sustained by God's grace. Breaking out of poverty and rising above limitations often requires more than wishful thinking or waiting for circumstances to change. While faith and miracles have their place, there is a practical path that God has consistently used to elevate people, hard work guided by a sense of mission and supported by His grace. I am a firm believer in Christ Jesus, and I strongly believe in miracles. However, I must also speak this truth in love: faith does not replace diligence, rather, it strengthens diligence and gives it direction. Hard work becomes even more powerful when it is driven by purpose. When a person understands that their effort today is connected to a greater mission for their life, even the smallest task becomes meaningful. Instead of working merely to survive, such a person works with discipline, vision, and commitment, trusting that each step contributes to a better future. For this reason, do not despise any job that can put food on your table and give you an opportunity to grow beyond your current level. Even if it appears to be a menial job that others may look down on, approach it with discipline and purpose. Many great journeys begin with humble beginnings, and what seems insignificant today may become the foundation for greater opportunities tomorrow. As long as you remain diligent and committed to growth, it is only a matter of time before your circumstances begin to change. Consistent effort, supported by God's grace, has a way of opening doors that once seemed closed. Hard work truly pays, and there is dignity in labor. When your hands are committed to meaningful work and your heart remains aligned with God's purpose, progress may be gradual, but it will surely. Lesson 36. Do not dwell on what you lack, instead, focus your energy on making the most of what you already have. One of the easiest ways to become discouraged in life is to constantly focus on what you do not have. When your attention is fixed on your limitations, whether they are financial, educational, or situational, it becomes difficult to recognize the opportunities that are already present in your life. Many people delay progress because they believe they must first possess certain resources before they can begin moving forward. They tell themselves that success will only be possible when they have more money, more connections, or better circumstances. While resources can certainly be helpful, waiting for perfect conditions often leads to unnecessary delay. Instead of dwelling on what you lack, focus your energy on making the most of what you already have. Every person possesses something valuable, whether it is a skill, an idea, knowledge, relationships, or simply the ability to learn and grow. When you concentrate on developing and maximizing the resources currently within your reach, you begin to create momentum in your life. History shows that many great achievements began with limited resources. What distinguished those individuals was not what they had at the beginning, but their willingness to use what was available to them. Through discipline, creativity, and perseverance, small beginnings often grew into remarkable outcomes. This mindset also cultivates gratitude. When you learn to appreciate what you already have, your perspective begins to shift from scarcity to possibility. Gratitude helps you recognize that what may appear small today can become the foundation for something much greater tomorrow. As you continue to invest your time and energy into what is already in your hands, new opportunities often begin to emerge. Doors open, connections are formed, and your capacity to accomplish greater things expands. In the end, progress rarely begins with abundance, it begins with stewardship. When you faithfully use what you already have, you position yourself to receive even more. Lesson 37, no matter how difficult the journey may be, you will always prevail when you set your face like a flint, embrace discipline, and depend on the grace and mercy of God. Life is full of challenges, and difficulties are inevitable. Along the journey, there will be obstacles, delays, disappointments, and moments of discouragement. At times, it may even seem as though others are moving ahead while you remain in the same place. However, when we remain determined, disciplined, and anchored in God's grace, we develop the strength needed to overcome every challenge. True victory comes not only from hard work but also from trusting in God's mercy to guide and sustain us through every season of life. The Bible captures the spirit of determination in Isaiah 50:7, which says, "Because the sovereign Lord helps me, I will not be disgraced. Therefore have I set my face like a flint, and I know I will not be put to shame." To set one's face like a flint means to remain steadfast, resolute, and unwavering despite difficulties. During my flight training, I experienced a situation that tested both my resolve and humility. A junior colleague of mine began his training about 3 years after I had already started. Due to financial challenges, my progress was slower than I had hoped. At times, I had to pause my training while I gathered the resources needed to continue. My colleague, on the other hand, came into the program with sufficient resources and was able to move through his training much faster. Eventually, he completed his instructor ratings ahead of me. In an unexpected turn of events, he later became my instructor. It was certainly a humbling experience. In that moment, I had a choice to make. I could allow the situation to discourage me, become bitter, or lose focus on my dream. Alternatively, I could remain committed to the path God had placed before me. By the mercies of God, I chose not to be discouraged. Instead, I set my face like a flint. I remained focused on the goal, embraced discipline, and continued working diligently. I trusted that the same God who began the journey with me would also bring it to completion. At the appointed time, the Lord showed me mercy. What once looked like a delay was not a denial. In hindsight, that season was shaping my character, strengthening my perseverance, and teaching me humility. Sometimes God allows us to go through difficult paths so that when we finally arrive, we carry not only success but also wisdom and strength. So, do not be discouraged by what you may be going through today. The journey may indeed be difficult, and it is true that nothing truly great comes easily, especially when your foundation does not provide all the support or resources you may need. But if you can remain steadfast, set your face like a flint, embrace discipline, and depend on the grace and mercy of God, you will ultimately prevail. Your journey may take longer than someone else's, but remember this: delay is not defeat, and the race of life is not always won by the fastest but by those who refuse to quit. Lesson 38: Commitment and persistence are the absolute secrets to achieving anything you desire in life, God's way. Beloved, do you know that commitment and persistence are the absolute secrets to achieving anything you desire in life, God's way? In Luke 18:18, Jesus gave the illustration of a persistent widow. This woman continually made her request and remained committed to it. She did not give up until the unjust judge granted her plea. Commitment and persistence are the ultimate keys to rising above limitations, regardless of the odds. Mike Hernacki observed, "The key to getting what you want is the willingness to do whatever it takes to accomplish your objective." This does not refer to anything illegal, unethical, or harmful to others. Many people fail because they are not fully committed to the success they desire. After encountering one or two challenges, they give up because of a lack of commitment. Commitment is the willingness to do whatever it takes God's way to see your desire become a reality. The truth is that you are not truly ready for success in anything to which you are not committed. Many relationships would thrive if both partners were committed to making them work. You will reach your desired heights if you are willing to pay the price of discipline, commitment, and persistence. When things were rough for me and it seemed impossible to succeed, my commitment to my pursuit and my persistence in doing what was right were the things the Lord used to make a way of escape. When the force of commitment is at work in your life, giving up is not an option, and with the help of God, nothing is impossible. Beloved, I know you have dreams and that you are trusting God for their fulfillment. But here comes a powerful question: how committed are you to following hard after God in order to see your dreams become a reality? Lesson 39: While it is important to tackle obstacles and limitations from a spiritual standpoint, we must also develop a growth mindset in order to rise above them. The Bible tells us, "Now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, does not differ at all from a slave, though he is master of all, but is under guardians and stewards until the time appointed by the Father." Galatians 4:1-2. This passage reveals an important spiritual principle: although the heir is destined to inherit everything, he cannot fully access that inheritance until he matures. In the same way, the Lord in His wisdom sometimes allows us to remain in a season of waiting until we develop the maturity, character, and capacity required to handle what we are asking Him for. Many people interpret delays as denial, but often they are simply opportunities for growth. God is not only concerned about giving us blessings, He is also concerned about preparing us to manage those blessings well. Without the necessary growth and maturity, what we receive too early may eventually become a burden rather than a blessing. Most limitations in life are not imposed by external forces but by a lack of personal growth and capacity. When you expand your knowledge, strengthen your character, and develop the right mindset, many of the obstacles that once seemed impossible to overcome will gradually disappear. As your capacity increases, you will find that certain challenges become easier to navigate. As you grow, doors that once seemed closed will begin to open. Opportunities that previously appeared out of reach will become accessible because you have developed the capacity required to step into them. In many cases, it is not that the doors were locked, rather, we had not yet grown into the person who could walk through them. Therefore, while it is essential to pray and trust God for breakthrough, it is equally important to commit to personal growth. Develop your mindset, strengthen your discipline, and build the capacity required for the future you desire. As you grow, you will discover that many limitations lose their power, and the path before you becomes clearer. Lesson 40: Your vision may not grow beyond your own horizon until you embrace shared thinking. Imagine trying to see the entire landscape while standing in one spot. Your view is limited to what lies within your own horizon. However, if others are standing on different hills and each person shares what they see, you begin to gain a much broader and clearer picture of the entire landscape. What was once limited by your perspective becomes expanded through the perspectives of others. One of the common mistakes many people make today is relying solely on their own strength, ideas, and understanding. When you depend only on yourself, your accomplishments will often be limited to your personal capacity, experience, and perspective. As a result, your vision may never grow beyond the boundaries of what you alone can see or accomplish. However, if you truly desire to experience remarkable success that is far greater than your individual ability, you must learn to embrace shared thinking. Shared thinking involves bringing people of like minds into your circle, sharing your vision with them, and being open to their ideas, insights, and contributions. It requires humility to acknowledge that others may see things that you cannot see. When you surround yourself with the right people and create room for collaborative thinking, your vision becomes stronger and more refined. Many of the blind spots you may have will become clearer through the insights of others. In many cases, people around you will recognize opportunities, solutions, and strategies that you might never have considered on your own. You may be surprised to discover that the things you could not see from your position become visible through the perspectives of others. Their ideas, experiences, and support can provide the momentum needed to transform your vision into reality. When shared thinking becomes part of your journey, your vision expands beyond your horizon, and what once seemed impossible becomes achievable. Conclusion. The journey continues. As you come to the end of these 40 lessons, it is important to remember that the purpose of this book is not simply to provide ideas to read and admire. Its purpose is to encourage reflection, growth, and intentional living. Life is not defined by how much we know, but by how much we apply. Wisdom becomes meaningful only when it shapes the way we think, the decisions we make, and the lives we influence. The lessons shared in these pages are simple reminders that life is a journey of continuous learning and development. Looking back over the years, I have come to realize that growth rarely happens in comfort. Many of the most valuable lessons in life are learned during seasons of uncertainty, difficulty, or waiting. Yet those very moments often become the experiences that strengthen our character, deepen our faith, and prepare us for the future. Along the journey, you will encounter opportunities, challenges, relationships, disappointments, and unexpected breakthroughs. Some doors will open easily, while others will require patience and perseverance. Some seasons will feel rewarding, while others may feel difficult. Through it all, remember that growth is part of the process. Never stop developing yourself. Continue to grow spiritually, intellectually, and emotionally. Remain humble enough to learn from others, disciplined enough to pursue excellence, and courageous enough to remain faithful to your purpose even when the path is not easy. Also remember that life is not meant to be lived in isolation. The people you help, encourage, and support along the way often become part of the legacy you leave behind. True success is not measured only by personal accomplishments but by the positive impact you make in the lives of others. As you move forward in your journey, hold firmly to the principles that build strong character: faith in God, integrity, discipline, humility, and a willingness to serve others. These qualities will guide you through many of life's uncertainties and position you to live a life of meaning and influence. Turning 40 has reminded me that life is not merely about reaching milestones, it is about becoming the person God created us to be. Each year provides another opportunity to grow, to refine our values, and to move closer to fulfilling our purpose. Wherever you are in your journey today, remember that your story is still being written. Your future is not determined solely by your past experiences but also by the choices you make moving forward. Choose growth. Choose purpose. Choose faith. Choose to become the best version of yourself. May your journey be filled with wisdom, perseverance, and the grace to fulfill the purpose for which you were created. The journey continues.